Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. After 4 long years we were finally able to head back to Japan and head to my favourite place for toy shopping, Tokyo. The first place we headed to was Akihabara, which has changed a fair amount in the 4 years. Lots of buildings have been knocked down and new buildings are being put up. And as far as vintage toy hunting goes, there are certainly a lot less places to check out. The main one still being Mandarake, but there's also a couple of little shops dotted around the back alleys. So I checked those out to see what was on offer. I have to say, as this is a tourist hotspot, the prices tend to be astronomical. I think the highest price thing I saw was a vintage Star Wars Boba Fett for nearly £100, and it wasn't even in very good condition. But it's still good fun to have a look around, and I spent a good couple of hours just rummaging in the shops. Next up, we headed to Nakano Broadway, which is my favourite of places to vintage toy hunt. The Broadway is absolutely full of tiny little shops, crammed with toys from floor to ceiling, and it really is a place that you can spend an entire day. I generally go there a few times if I possibly can while we're on holiday, because the first time you'll see some stuff, maybe not buy it. Second time you'll go, you'll buy that and you'll see something different. There's always something new to be seen, and this time was no exception. I spent a good amount of time there over a few days, and each time I found something new that I wanted to add to my collection, and some things that I'd been hunting for a very long time, which you will see later in the video. It's a good mix of vintage toys, modern toys, vintage Japanese toys, vintage American toys. Essentially, if there's something that you collect, you will find a shop here that has that for sale. It really is the best place for vintage toy hunters to head to, and I always come back with something I wasn't expecting. Prices on toys here did tend to be a little bit lower than those seen in Akihabara, which is interesting because some of the shops here also have stores in Akihabara, but there are so many stores here and independent little shops that normally if you rummage around you can normally find a bargain hidden in the background. If you're after vintage Star Wars though, the prices are still really high everywhere, especially if you want the Japanese only releases of certain toys, although I did manage to find an episode 1 Star Wars item that I've been looking for a very long time. Dotted in and around Tokyo, you will find a store called Hobby Off, and it's well worth checking out as many of these as you possibly can. It's a second-hand store where people take in items they no longer want. They are bagged up and often sold at discount prices. You will find a real mixture of stuff here. From toys to statues to model kits, there's pretty much everything you could ever want in these stores. The stores that are located nearer central Tokyo do tend to be picked clean, so if you want to find some real gems, you need to head out of Tokyo into the suburbs, and that's where you'll find the better items. I only had a chance to go to 2 different hobby offs on this trip. One was in central Tokyo in Akihabara. That one really didn't have a lot of stuff. The second one I went to was outside of main Tokyo, and that was a lot better. There was a lot more stuff to be found, a lot more bargains, so it really is worth making an effort to get to these less easy to get to stores. Very similar to Hobby Off, there is another shop called Surugaya that I'd not been to before, but I'd been recommended it a few times, so we headed out to Tachikawa to see what it was like, and it really was a very good shop, very much like Hobby Off though. Lots and lots of second-hand toys in baskets spread everywhere, so you just had to hunt through them and see what you could find. There were certainly some good bits to be had here. I picked up a couple of Transformers, and I really could have spent a lot longer just rummaging in the boxes, but unfortunately we had places to go, so it really was just a quick stop in, but it was still well worth visiting. During the trip we did visit many other places, including things like Toys R Us and various flea markets and second-hand shops, and I did manage to find a really good selection of items and toys to add to my collection. So let's head on back to toy-polloi and I'll show you the main things that I picked up. Okay, so I'm now back in the UK and I've had a chance to fully go through all the things I picked up. It really was a wonderful trip and I was amazed at how much stuff I was able to find. Prices overall are a lot higher than they were the previous times I've been, but there are still bargains to be had, and it's always good to trade with friends, which is how I've managed to get a few of the sort of the gems of the trip. So here in front of me are the Microman and Cyborg stuff that I picked up. A lot of these were trades. In fact, most of the Microman and the Cyborg were a trade with Yuichi, who used to have the shop Toy Cats Showcase. Unfortunately, Toy Cats has shut for the moment. He's still trading online, and it does sound like he hopes to have an actual shop set up again in the near future. But for the moment, I just met up with him a couple of times and we went out for dinner and we did some trades. I took him some bits and he very kindly sourced some bits for me. The gem of this is the Henshin Cyborg in the background there. If you know anything about Action Man and G.I. Joe, when that was taken to Japan, it didn't do particularly well, so they thought the best way to sort of encourage kids to buy it was to turn it into a big plastic robot. So this is essentially an Action Man doll, or a G.I. Joe doll, but in clear plastic with robotic bits inside, and you can swap his limbs and all sorts of things. They are fantastic toys. I've only got one of them so far, so this is a second one in my collection. This is the gold version, so all of the sort of workings inside him are gold, and the little bit inside his head, if I show you, is also gold. So this is a new thing to my collection, so that's a massive thank you to Yuichi for doing a trade with me on that one. It really is a gem of an item. Then we also did a trade for a couple more Spy Magicians, which are the ones you see here. These are M132, which is Dan, which is the red one, and N134, which is David. Pretty good ones to have, because obviously my name is Dave, so that's the two Spy Magicians there. I also traded for a Microman Michael, which is 122, the blue guy here, and also for Blackie, which is this figure here. He's a figure I do already have, but I wanted another one of him. I think he's probably my favourite of all the Microman figures. He is this black version of an early Microman, and Ishii had a spare one, so yeah, we did a trade for that, so that is absolutely fantastic. Then the other two Microman figures I actually picked up at Nakano Broadway in mandarake. They were reasonable prices. This is an original Microman. This is Max 124, M124. He was 1,000 yen, so that's about £6. Not bad price at all. And then I've got a reissue version of an Acroyer. I've got a few of these. These were reissued, I'm going to say, sort of like 2000s or something like that. There's probably a date on there somewhere, but they are pretty good reissues. Oh, there it says 1999 on the front, and they come boxed like this. I paid 2,000 yen for this, so it's about £12. It's still an absolute bargain because you can't get these figures here in the UK, so that's another one to add to my collection. And then the final thing was actually another gift from Yuichi, so Toy Cats Showcase. He had been to Wonderfest, which is a sort of festival of toys and sofubi and all sorts of things, and he very kindly picked these up for me, which are kits. These are paper craft kits of various things that you can make from Microman. So he picked me up 3 of the kits. I've got a sort of bulldozer there, all made out of paper, and you can fit figures inside them and attach actual bits of the Micronauts and Microman to them. So we've got a bulldozer there. We've got this helicopter, which looks pretty cool. It comes with some sort of device here at the bottom. I have yet to work out how to sort of put these together, but I really will be putting them together because they look such good fun. So there's a helicopter there, and then we have this one, which looks really complicated because we've got sort of treads and tracks and all sorts of bits, and it comes with a whole load of Tamiya model kit pieces, so it's going to be quite a fun build. Again, I definitely am going to build this because it just looks so interesting, and I'm intrigued as to how it gets put together. So those were gifts, as I say, and really kind of him to source them for me. That was the start of my collecting over there in Tokyo, so let's look at some of the other pieces. Next up we have a few Star Warsy bits and a couple of little odds and ends. Every time I go to Japan I find some odd Star Wars thing that I've never seen before, or that is a Japanese exclusive, and this time was no different. Previously on my travels I'd seen these miniature episode 1 figures, and they do only appear to have been released in Japan. They are about 2 inches tall, so a lot smaller than the 3 3/4 inch figures that were released. They don't particularly have any weapons. I think only a couple of them have got lightsabers, and they are very unique. I've so far managed to pick up a few carded ones on various trips out there, but I'd seen this set online and it was something I've wanted for a long time. It's the Naboo fighter with minifigures gift set. So you get all 8 of the figures that were released. So you've got Anakin, you've got Padme, you've got a battle droid, you've got Darth Maul, and you've got Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn. You've got Jar Jar Binks, and is that Padme again? I think there's sort of 2 different versions of Padme. It's Queen Amidala, that one isn't Padme. And then you get the Naboo fighter. And these are all shrunk down versions. So I wanted that for a long time, and finally I found it. It cost me about £40, which I didn't think was too bad sort of a price, and I am going to open it because I want to have this on display. As I say, I've got a few other figures from this set, so I may open those as well, and it might be something that you're interested to see reviewed. So if you do want to see that reviewed, let me know in the comments and I will do a proper review of it. There was also a Star Wars pop-up shop in the station near where we were staying, and I found a couple of items in there. I picked up a t-shirt that was pretty cool. I picked up this sort of on patch of a very sort of fluffy looking C3PO, which I thought would be quite good for one of my nerd vests. And then there was this little tin or sort of pencil case type thing, which I had to grab because it's got pictures of the original vintage figures on it. And I like to keep all of my tools in various pencil cases. In fact, I've got some right next to me here. I've got a Powerpuff Girls one. This is full of tools. So I'm going to be using this to store some more of my tools and equipment for fixing toys in. I thought that was pretty good. And again, on a previous trip, I'd picked up some gashapons of R2-D2. I didn't manage to get all of them. I think there were 6 in the set. And in one of the hobby offs, I found this, which is the red R2-D2 from the Naboo Starship. This is the exact sort of wind-up toy that I'd already picked up, and this I think was 100 yen, so about 70p or something silly like that. So I had to grab it because it's a unique thing and you don't get these anywhere else in the world. So that was well worth grabbing. And then there are a couple of little oddities. On one of my early trips to Japan about 15 years ago, I saw this toy, which was a candy toy version of Vincent from the Black Hole. I didn't buy it, and ever since I've been trying to find one, and I've just never seen them. This time, there it was on the shelf, so I picked it up. I think I paid £15 for it. It's probably quite good value because it seems to be incredibly hard to find. You can't do anything with it, it's just a solid toy, but it is a very nice version of Vincent from the Black Hole, so that was well worth grabbing. And then I did pick up another Indiana Jones figure. The Indiana Jones figures you don't see at all often here in the UK, and I've now picked up 2 on my trips to Japan. So this is Salah from Indiana Jones. He cost me about £30, which sounds like quite a lot of money, but as I never see them here in the UK, I thought it was worth getting. He's got his cape, he's missing his little sort of torch that he's supposed to have in his hand. But that's really quite nice, and I'm very pleased to have it. I'm going to give the cape a good clean. I'm also going to make a pattern out of this cape so I can make some of my own. So he was definitely worth getting, something I didn't expect to see on this trip. And then I did pick up one Star Wars gashapon. Pretty much everywhere you go there are gashapon machines. There are rows and rows of them normally. And one day I went down to Yokohama and we went to a shopping mall there, and I've never seen so many gashapon machines all lined up. There were thousands of them, and when you see that many lined up, it's very hard to sort of pick which ones you're going to put your money in. But there was a Star Wars one I'd seen previously that I wanted to have a go at. It had some little mini posters from Star Wars, and there were 3 that were in Japanese, so I was very hopeful to get the Japanese one, and as you can see I did manage to get that. So we've got this nice poster with Darth Vader on it, and these are sort of plastic coated things, and I think you take that out of there, and then this has got a little stand. I thought it'd be quite nice to display with my sort of vintage Star Wars figures, so that should go in there like that. And you have this little poster display. I think it's pretty cool. These normally are about 300 yen, something like that, for a gashapon machine, so a couple of pounds. But I really like that. It's a nice little unique Japanese Star Wars poster that I can display with some of my figures. As well as all the boys' toys, I do actually keep an eye out on some of the girls' toys that are there, because I really like things like this doll. This is a Licker doll, so it's the sort of Japanese equivalent to Barbie and Cindy, and it's been around for a very long time. You can see them in Toys R Us. There's always loads of them, always new versions out there. And I actually picked up some shoes and some earrings for my friend Kathy, who runs Jolly Dolly Shop, because she specifically asked for things like that. But while we were in Hobby Off, they had a wall of second-hand versions of the Licker doll, so I grabbed myself one because I thought they're pretty cute actually, and it will go quite nicely with my display. I've got a couple of Cindy's, I've got a couple of Action Girls, so this cost about £6 or £7, and it's in really nice condition, just needs a little bit of a clean, and I thought it was quite a cute little doll. She has these little bear ears, and then got a little bear related dress with strawberries on, and her shoes are even made to look like strawberries. I just thought it was a really nice nice little doll, and for £6, £7, whatever I paid for it, it was well worth getting. So she came from Hobby Off, and the rest of these pieces came from Toys R Us. These also came from Hobby Off. Mrs. Toy-polloi picked these up, but she thought they would be quite useful for Cathy to use in some of her scenes. So we've got some sort of hair accessories and bits, and it's like 300 yen, so £2 for these sort of quite cool little pieces for use in dioramas. So it's not just boys' toys I've been buying. I bought some girls' toys as well. Next up we have Transformers and robot related toys. I picked up only a few because Transformers are incredibly expensive all over the world at the moment, but in Japan they just seem astronomical prices, so I really didn't find many that I could sort of justify buying. But I did pick up this, which is a Robo Machines tank. I had this exact toy as a child and I've been wanting to get it for a long while. In fact, I bought one fairly recently on eBay, what I thought was the right toy. It turned out to be a knockoff, which you can see is much larger, so I finally have the right version of this GoBot, or Robo Machine as they're called in Japan. I also picked up this, which is a really nice condition Transformers G1 buzzsaw. In fact, it's so nice condition, I have a feeling it may be a reissue. The markings on it still say 1983, but it is in such good condition. I'm sort of dubious as to how old this is, and it does have a sort of alternate sticker on the underside of it. You can see here there's a sort of little robot version of the sticker above the rub sign. There's normally a bit of a cassette tape sort of showing in there, but that's been replaced with a robot. So I'm sort of thinking this might be a reissue, but it didn't cost me that much. I think it was about £8 or £9, so I'll work that out at some point, but it's not bad for that price. I did pick up this, which is from Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. I really like the very first Transformers movie, and I think my favourite sort of character and the favourite Transformer from that was Blackout. They reused that mould in Revenge of the Fallen with this figure called Grinder, and I've been trying to get it since the movie came out. I never saw it here in the UK, and it was there on the shelf in one of these sort of second-hand shops, so I grabbed it. I think I paid about £20 for it, so not too bad. It's in really lovely condition, nothing is broken on it, so I was quite pleased to get that one. I also picked another one of these up, which is the Choro Q, tiny little Transformers toys. If you watch my channel a lot, you know that I like penny racers, and penny racers are based on a Japanese toy line called Choro Q, and back a few years back now, I can't remember exactly when these came out, but maybe sort of 5 or 6 years ago, they released Transformers versions of these little Choro Q, so they do transform. I've got quite a few of them now, but I didn't have Sunstreaker, so I picked him up about £4, I think. Not a huge amount of money, so that's really nice. I don't think it's been opened, or it doesn't really matter if it's been opened. The packaging on these can easily be resealed, so I will be opening this one up anyway and putting it with the rest of my collection. And then Jeremy from Tokyo Toy, we always do a trade every time I go over and every time we meet up, so we did a big trade. I'll show you some more of that in a minute, but he gave me this, which was a sort of little robot thing. He's not quite sure what it's from. I'm not quite sure what it's from either, but it does have a Transformers vibe to it. It's a little model kit sort of figure, and you can see here it doesn't really look like a Transformer, so I need a little bit more research on that one, but it's quite a cool little gift. So let's look at some of the more Japanesey things, and you'll see some more that I traded with Jeremy. Okay, and here are some of the Japanese bits. In fact, this is only a fraction of the Japanese bits, as there is a huge bag here. This is all stuff that I traded with Jeremy for, so I'm just going to show you a few little odds and ends from that bag, because there's way more than I have time to go through. So Jeremy gave me this, which is a Shin Ultraman from the new Ultraman movies. This is how Ultraman first appears, so he doesn't have his sort of red suit on, he's just all in grey. This is a modern figure, but he does look really nice. I'm going to get that out of the box and get that displayed with some of my other Ultraman toys. I also picked up another of these, which are these sort of weird little monsters from Ultraman. This is Metron. I just like the look of this guy, some sort of squiddy type thing. I've picked up loads of these over the years. These are modern toys, and you can pick them up for like £4 or £5. There are sort of hundreds of them. You go into a shop and there are just walls and walls of these things. So I just picked up Metron because I thought he was pretty cool. Also, in one of the fabric shops, I picked up this, which is a little iron-on Ultraman patch. So it's a nice tiny little patch. So that's going to go on one of my nerd vests as well. Again, from Jeremy, he gave me this, which is Ultra 7. There's a few other of these sort of toys in this bag. It's a really sort of chunky looking figure. I'm not quite sure where it's from or who made it, but it's really nice. It's got fairly posable limbs and it's fairly well constructed with screws and stuff on the back. Yeah, I really like the look of that one, so it's another one that's going to go with my Ultraman collection. Jeremy also gave me lots of odds and ends. I just picked out this from the bag, which is some vintage style kids sunglasses. They look really old. I'm not quite sure how old they are, but just the packaging looks old. I love the style of this sort of packaging, so I'm going to put that on my notice board just because it looks so cool. There's also this little tin sort of car from Pico Poco. Very strange little thing, but it's quite a cool looking thing. I think Mrs. toy-polloi might have her eye on that one, so that may end up in her little collection. But the best thing out of the bag from Jeremy was this. I've been a big collector of Gatchaman and Battle of the Planets for a very long time now, and they made these keshi of them many years ago, and I've got a few of them. These are sort of rubbers essentially, and Jeremy said that he had loads of them, so he sort of picked out a whole selection of them. So these are all in different sizes, but these are the Gatchaman Battle of the Planets characters, but as rubbers, and they're all nice sort of garish colours. I absolutely love these. So these are going to go with my Gatchaman collection. I don't think I've got most of these. I've got a couple of Princess, but there's all Tiny and Mark and Jason and yeah, Keop, all of those, they are all in here, or they are in their Japanese names. I can't exactly remember all of their Japanese names, but the UK names: Mark, Jason, Keop, Tiny and Princess. That's the UK names anyway. So yeah, these are absolutely fantastic. So I did a big trade with Jeremy. I still got to go through the rest of this bag, but you can see there's an awful lot of stuff in there. So there you go, that is a good sort of selection of all the bits that I picked up in Japan. As with every trip, there are more things that I saw that I wish I could have brought back, but there's only so much that I can cram in my suitcase. So I feel I picked the best of the bits that I wanted, and I'm very pleased to manage to get all of these back to the UK. I'm hoping that there's not another 4-year break before we get to go again, that we can head back next year, because it's always lovely to catch up with fellow toy collectors and do trades and sort of just generally chat about toys. I really do enjoy that, and there are so many good places to go toy shopping in Tokyo, especially if you like the vintage stuff. There's still lots of vintage stuff to be found, and that's what I like doing, hunting around and finding those hidden gems. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.